How to know if God is calling you to leave your job. If this video reached you, it's probably because the Lord has laid something on your heart, something to build or create that's bigger than you. And you're trying to weigh, you're trying to discern, when is the right time to go from my current source of security and provision and step into the place that God is calling me. A year ago, I actually left a job that I was in for over 20 years with my family of 5. I'd say the first thing that was probably most helpful for me as I was leading up to make this same decision was I began to become increasingly uncomfortable in my current job. I'd go to work and it wasn't anything to do with the people or the circumstances or anything like that. It was something within me. I felt like I was shifting, I was changing on the inside. And as I looked around at my job, I was realizing that, hey, this doesn't feel aligned with where I feel like I am. And that was kind of like the first realization that, hey, maybe this job isn't for me. And as each day went on, that discomfort grew more and more and more. And it just kind of left me stuck. But the biggest obstacle you're going to face is actually not your circumstances. It's not preparing. It's not kind of getting things in order. It's an internal obstacle. It's that internal choice, that internal threshold of releasing control and now going into a new season. And this actually created a shift in me when I began to realize that my life is actually a collection of seasons. It's not just one season. And this is the same thing we see in Scripture. When you look at the patriarchs and the people in the Bible, like think about just King David, right? There was multiple seasons of his life, right? There was him as a shepherd. There was him in Saul's house. There was him in the wilderness. There was him as king. And moving between each of those seasons, he had to cross a threshold. And you are probably finding yourself bumping up against one of those thresholds. So there I was trying to make the decision. Do I step out or do I kind of stay where I feel secure? And I found that the best way for me to cross that threshold was not one big giant leap of faith, but rather steps of faith. And as you eliminate those possibilities, the window of options becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. And then eventually you're going to come to a point where you reach a threshold, where now there's no more steps to take. There's just a step that moves you from where you are to where God is calling you. And that's really the point where we make that decision to leave our job. And as I approached that threshold, man, I'll tell you what, it's like you get this storm inside of you. You get all of these feelings coming up. It's like, and they really come back to the same questions. The question is, that for me was, am I enough? I believe God has, called me to this, but am I enough to actually get there? And that feeling of not enoughness is really just a feeling of needing control. But faith is not about control, not about holding on tight, but rather opening your hands and releasing.